Good evening. My name is Terry Lansing. I know you don't know me. I'm the president of the Rosamond Chamber of Commerce. At the present time, we do have our incorporation done, so we are in the process of building our business over there. Yeah, yes. And also we're working on Renews It Rosamond. Renew Biz, I guess is what they call it. And we have all that grant money that we're going to be getting from the county on that. I did drop off a letter for Steve and for Greg Woods regarding that building over there. Dr. Scheer had called the office, and we're just trying to get some clarification on using the building. At the present time, the Rosamond Chamber is not in a position to pay to use the building. I do know that you guys have some policy in effect for people to use it. This building is the community center for Rosamond downtown, and it's right within the district that we're going to be spending most of this money. So we're sort of looking for the Rosamond Community Service District to work with us on using that building. We are looking at being able to access it to hold these meetings that are coming up. And I just wanted to let the board know that we're hoping that you guys are on board to help us make a better Rosamond.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. Now, since you know we have the Rosamond Chamber of Commerce, and you know that it's going to be working, I'm going to give some forms to your general manager. And these forms will explain all the stuff that's happening downtown, the development and things like this. And we are requesting that the general manager share this with you, because we would like to have you, the board, the Rosamond Community Service District, which is a big part of this community, to become a part of the Chambers of Commerce. We're not only just doing this with the revitalization, but we are also working with the county to have the Metro Link come up to Rosamond, and then have a ferry out to Edwards Air Force Base and back and forth. We are also working with the county, because they have written a grant, and the grant is for the striping and the sidewalks downtown Rosamond. And so what happened is the chamber has been given responsibility, as you see that in the front, to do all of this. But we can't do anything without the help of the mighty Rosamond Community Service District. Because what happened is they've always been a part of this community. All of you people live in this community, and we would like you to join. There's the application, Mr. Manager. Okay? So thank you for your time, and we're looking forward to having you participate in the new chamber. We have our papers now, we have our bank account, but we don't have any money. All of this stuff is coming on later on. So we're trying to build up. Remember, we have a lot of people saying, if you do not send any money south of Avenue A, they will be happy to join the chamber. Well, we're talking to those people now, saying, we want you to join now. We made a promise years ago. It's nothing what the people did 12 years ago. They had good reason to do that. This is today, 2013. Thank you for your time, and we hope that you all have a great evening. Thank you.
The documents for the arsenic grant have been, they're on their way to the state. Been signed, and we had a meeting and discussed it with the state, and the confirmed, because their typical foreign language is loan. And had to confirm that this was a grant, and it is 100% on this space is granted. We ensured that, signed the documents. It had been reviewed by council, and sent them off. So we're about, they alluded to, it's just going to make the rounds and then get everybody's signature and approval, and then we'll get a wet copy back to us, and then the funding will be made.
May I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
we've been doing this for how many years now with him? And
I've been doing it for 2.
I know, they didn't figure out between the word grant and loan. Is that just kind of an administrative delay tactic?
I'll tell you what it does to a general manager managing the budget and stuff, if you see that and you're anticipating a grant and you see the words loan,
Heart palpitations.
it gets to my heart, it got to Lizette's and everybody else that started reviewing those documents.
Well, you know, and not that the fact that Dr. Shear is sitting here, but I guess several years ago before I became a board member, he had to go up to Sacramento himself and get the process started. So maybe we need to get Dr. Shear and I take him up there with us to speak.
Well, in all fairness to Dr. Shear and his work that he's done in that regard to go into Sacramento, hopefully you won't have to do it again.
Well,
Because they assured us that this is moving forward, it's signed, and this was the funding agreement.
okay.
So hopefully we'll get some fruit from that labor shortly.
Is Dr. Dollywall still on the staff?
He's still in the loop on the in the local office, but he's still definitely in the loop.
Yeah. He's the guy that started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sure. I might just point out to the board's edification that within the grant, the reimbursables that were submitted were right at the $80,000 range. We should see a turnaround in approximately 30 days, and we can start the engineering and feasibility moving forward. We're still waiting for Dr. Moreland, who is the doctor that did the certification on the wastewater treatment plant, and for his report. Now, I don't know if I reported before, but we did get a preliminary report from him, a verbal, and he said everything looked great in his analysis of everything. So we're not anticipating any problems, and hopefully we'll get, instead of the half MGD, we'll get the 3/4 MGD cert and be able to do some good things with that water, as Greg was pointing out. And to lead into that issue that Greg was discussing as far as recycled water, we met with the high school maintenance superintendent, Raleigh Davis, and the architects for the school expansion. And we discussed many things: water lines, sewer lines, fire hydrants, and recycled water used for some of the school sites, and whether or not we would have anything completed for that. Advised them that we were currently underway and should have by June a completed draft copy of our master plan for this recycled water. Should be completed. And they were happy to hear that. We discussed where our lines were today and how we would go about directional wise feeding the high school, the Westpark school, and the elementary school downtown, as well as if we had to go out to Tropico. Correct, Lois? Sure, are you saying that?
I'd like a clarification. What happened is I read in the paper, in the Antelope Valley Press, that we are not going to suffer a drought for 3 years, that we have plenty of water, and that what we're going to come in so that we will not have a drought, you know, or a lack of water or something like this. It was in the Antelope Valley Press. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
What this, would you clarify that for me, please?
Sure. I think President Wood touched on it and didn't take it too far when he mentioned the Orville Dam and lake being at 107% of its capacity. When you have water that's being housed and stored in storage facilities, the few storage facilities we have in the state, and they're at the point where we may have to send water out to the ocean, something's wrong, and we can't get it through the delta. A lot of that is because of the environmental concerns with the delta smell. I'm up to here with putting the Delta smelt in front of the interests of people and everything else, and there should be some common sense applied to this issue. And I see a direct lack of common sense applied. For some reason, we're only able to take 350 some Delta smelt, and after that, we cannot send any more water through those pumps, and that water is going out to the ocean. So we're losing some 800,000 acre feet of water that could be coming south. The drought that is being talked about, or the lack of water that AVAC is going to get in their allocation, the 35%, is not because we didn't have sufficient water in the Sierras, in the snowpack, or the rainfall. Now, it was short, but and it was lacking in water content. Our snows were somewhat, but not to the extent that we would have been back to 35, possibly a 50-55%, but nothing like what we're seeing today. So when they talk about that, and I did not see the article, I just wonder if possibly they were talking about an actual drought and not a man-made drought.
I'll have to get the article because it was written, they were talking about the water that we have in the water banks. We have the water here and we have the water there. And it was, the fact is that AVAC has storage in their water bank, and we have water bank too, and plus the recycled water that they have and everything. But it was a good article. I'll have to get that for you because, but you clarified it really well. Thank you very much.
Moving on, I'll be meeting with Carol Fogelman, our attorney, on the workout for the assessment districts 91-3 and 90-2 on the 6th, which will be the first court date in regard to the workout plan. Should be going before the court to request authorization and get approval to start working on the assessments and the revenues that are lacking, and start working to position the properties in a manner that they would possibly sell. But we have to go through the court to get that done. So I'll be bringing back a report probably May 22nd, after the court date and everything, to report to the board as to how that's progressing. I'm going to be deposed in the adjudication. Can't talk too much about that, but just so you know, at the end of the week, I'll be going to give my deposition, or give my deposition in regard to the adjudication. We're going to receive a letter from Lynn Takahichi from Kennedy Jenks, who is a good friend of Glenn Ryder's. Lynn had, as you know, Glenn Ryder was doing our strategic plan with, we were working on it together, and he passed away after his presentation with us. Not that we caused it or anything, but Glenn was a good man, and Lynn was a great friend of his and a colleague engineer. And he knows Glenn's work. He knows our contract. He knows where Glenn was and where he was going on the project. He did the study on it, and he's going to do it for the same contract that Glenn had, as well as he's trying to clear up all the loose ends for the family, and they're going to shut down Glenn's practice. I told him definitely we'd like to continue, and I'd like to get a cover letter and explanation from his standpoint on what he sees in here, so we have an idea that they're on the same page. Now, I've talked to him verbally, and he is on the same page, but I want it in writing so I can present that to you for your ultimate approval. Director Wallace and Director Spoor and myself attended the SDRMA conference that Director Wallace had mentioned, and we did that, all three, the two board of director members and myself, in order to acquire the CIP points that we need as an agency. And those CIP points in the education of understanding how SDRMA works and what to do to prevent exposure to and claims saves us a lot of money. So it may seem kind of odd that we sent three people from the district there, but the return for the cost is totally covers tremendously our being there. The community building, the letter, I did receive the letter. I presented that to Director Glennon, and we discussed before the meeting addressing that in a government public affairs meeting. However, we have committed already to the 7th, 14th, and the 21st already, so we have time to officially go through the board and present what they want to do and how much they want to do it. And so it'll be discussed in that meeting.
Hey, Steve, can I just make a comment on that real quick?
Sure.
There, for us board members, they have 3 committees, and I'm taking part in one of them, so perhaps if the other board members were available, they have a planning, an economics, an events, and a planning. And maybe if one of us could one time commit to sit on each one of them, we'll kind of keep ourselves aware of what's going on, because Mr. Ramsey did bring up a point, our building's in the middle of the whole project. And, you know, we have a right in the community to be aware of what's going on, and also as things move forward, to be in a position as board members to know what are we going to do and not do when it comes to the building, instead of always pushing on you to tell us maybe this is the time we can supply you with good information, because I don't think it's fair. The meetings are at nighttime, to ask you to also attend those meetings also. And that's kind of pulling you real in, and your staff doesn't go. So perhaps we could look at it, the date Steve has or I have, and maybe we could all look at maybe taking apart one of those meetings and helping out the district out itself. Thanks, sir.
Okay, moving to budget revenues. We had a budget of $6.7 million, and when we entered this fiscal year, currently our revenue is about 72% of our anticipated revenues up to this point. However, it's lacking the revenues from our waste haulers, which is about another $210,000, and adding in RCSD revenues that come in at the end of the fiscal year instead of on a monthly basis, so, or at the beginning. And when you calculate those in, we're at 75%, with 75% of our fiscal year gone. So we're right on target. We have every reason to believe that we're going to be right on target at the end of the year or better. Some of the things that I'd like to point out, we're only at 63% of our budgeted allocation for salaries. We're 12% behind. We're saving 12% on our salaries. We're 15% less for the same period of time last year of last year's budget. So we're tracking behind in the savings, or we're tracking ahead on savings. And we have spent 8% less on salaries, and we have used 50% less in overtime revenues than we have had budgeted. And I see I made a mistake in here because I was trying to hurry to put this together. At the first, we have only used 63% of our budgeted allocation on the expense side, so we have a 12% savings there. And maybe I didn't explain that properly. But as of today, we're positioned very good and on target or better with the projections made in comparison to last year's budget and the beginning of the year. Joe couldn't be here to present it and put this sheet together to at least give you a briefing on what the budget looks like up to this point. I was very pleased to see that we're tracking ahead on almost all areas within the budget. Savings on the expense side and revenues right on target on our projections. So with that, I believe that's the end of my report. And I have the superintendent's report if you would like me to. Well, the pool lift. Just noticed I had that also. On the pool lift, the reason the emergency meeting was canceled was we found out that we just had to establish a plan. So it gave us more time instead of having an emergency meeting to address that issue, to go out and get bids, to talk, to find out what types of lifts are available, what should we do, and how should we continue to progress. So we've had an engineering meeting to discuss basically our contacting the Blessings Pool Supply and got a couple of prices there. They have anything from $6,000 to $7,000 lift, and one that would probably fit us in the $3,000 range, $3,500 range. So we're going to explore those lifts, see how they fit our particular situation, and hopefully incorporate that. That will be placed into our plan to be established on a more uniform way rather than jumping right into it. So we're working towards that with a plan. And that's the end of my report.
Steve, I have two things to ask you. Thank you very much for the report. Last meeting, the lady came in about the lighting situation. I'd like you to give a report of that if you can. And then remember the people that came in about the petition about every time we voted on something, they don't have to say so. Have you touched bases back with them? Have they have anything else to say or whatnot?
They sent the information. I'll touch on that question first, but they haven't had any more contact. They were going to take it higher, and the fact of the matter is we welcome their participation. We welcome their comments. We welcome their input when we have a workshop, and we never see them. We welcome them here to be here to comment, but they're not here. And we encourage them to come to the meetings and or to call, and we would explain when it fit their schedule. I even offered to sit down with them and explain how the whole study was put together. I would even give them a copy of the study so they could refer to it. And I haven't had any takers. So I don't know on that. The lady that came in, I went and met with the next day. I had a good conversation with her. She has been broken in, I can see why, where she sits. And trying to get a light to her would be so cost prohibitive because there's only 2 houses on her side of the street. She's right down 35th Street at the end, right there where those 2 houses sit by themselves. Okay.
Behind the school.
Right. But the light that's out across the street should be working. It was supposed to have been fixed 2 days ago. And so it should be on. She had a good resolve for a potential fix. And that was in the cul-de-sac. You have the street, you have the parkway, fence, and then the other cul-de-sac is right here, and it has a light. That's a one lamp light. And we talked about putting a dual there. That wouldn't get out all into the street and over to her house, but it would cast an additional amount of light that would help in the area. And we checked in on that. That too is going to be cost prohibitive to do. So she's a little bit premature in their development on that side of the street. And the only other resolve is to go over and help her install a light. And I'm not going to do this officially, but I thought about just getting her a light up somehow. I'm a journeyman electrician. I can handle that and just help her out of her proper situation where she has a dark spot.
Authorize general manager to purchase a district vehicle not to exceed $50,000.
Well, before you have a package of the various bids for vehicles. Now, you got to keep in mind, these are not negotiated, sit down. They don't have a lot of the incentives that are out there from Ford Motor Company applied to them, and it's kind of just the raw numbers. When you sit down, their numbers tend to come down quite a bit, as well as during the interim, I applied for a FIN number, which is a fleet identification number with Ford. Got that. That also adds a tremendous discount for fleet pricing. So the authorization or the request not to exceed $50,000 is not that we're going to go out and spend $50,000, but we needed a price just to get started so I can go out and negotiate and for the vehicle.
When you find that out, you're going to bring that back to what it is?
Yeah, I'll go negotiate the price for this vehicle, and the vehicle that is quoted here is a Ford Explorer with the EcoBoost engine, better gas mileage, and I will bring this back. Now, I did check out a Ford F-150. It was falling in the almost identical price range as this one, and I got to thinking I can carry 4 adults comfortably in the Ford or in the 150, but if I have to take folks out like I did the other day with the high-speed rail folks, I had 7 people in the car. So the Ford Explorer is a 7-passenger also.
Okay, Steve, thank you for getting the information. What I'd like to hope that we can do here this evening is get a motion passed that you can start looking into this, because even though these may have good numbers on them, we have another vehicle that keeps, they keep that. You know, the numbers on it starts to drop. And at some point, we have a vehicle that by our own waiting, we probably ourselves cause that big cost time and lag to get that vehicle done. So as quickly as we can get this, get a hold on it, I'd like to see this go forward. Because last week when I left, I apologize for leaving that family member. I thought we could have had it done there. That's another 2 weeks that we're behind the curve.
And I would ask that the authorization to not exceed, and I'm going to try to get it under 40. But we needed to find a price so I can go out and negotiate. And I would like to go out and negotiate for a car. This has been almost a year with this car, and the other one is going down in value. If I have any resale value in it at all, we've got to get it done. And if we put it off for another couple weeks, I'm afraid that something's going to happen with this other one. And but to buy a vehicle shouldn't take this long. And we do issues here every day in the millions of dollars, and this is just another example of what we need to do to get something done in government. Is meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and this is a vehicle.
Well, you're still going to bring it back to us here regardless. So we have to vote on this, so we have to bring the motion first, right? Go ahead.
Need a motion?
Yeah, I bring a motion that we give the GM authorization to look for the vehicle not to exceed the $50,000 price range and bring it back to the board for final consideration.
Second. Yeah, I'll go for that.
Okay, we have a motion Motion by Vice President Webb, seconded by Director Glennon. Any discussion from the directors?
Yeah, I had a discussion. There's a question that I have. There's quite a wide range in these bids. I'm surprised. But are any of these considering a trade-in? You're not going in there with a trade-in idea? Okay, so what would be the approximate resale value of the vehicle that you'd be replacing? That would help
Resale?
reduce. Yeah, that
What
would
can
help
I get
reduce
for
this.
it?
What do you think you can get for it?
What I think I can get for is somewhere in 6,000–7,000 range.
So if you think cash day, you can get them down close to 40. So it's 35,000 maybe.
As much as I can possibly get them down. Yeah. I would never, media, I would never go to a car dealer and tell them I had a trade-in. I'd like them to make their best deal, then get the trade-in done, if I was gonna do that. That way you're not jacking their price up on one side so they can give you more on a trade-in and play that game.
Yeah. Okay.
Director Wood,
Yes.
I need to read the motion, please.
Okay, I've got a question here, and I know what our vehicle policy says. Our general manager brought us 4 estimates for the exact same vehicle, and every one of them are about the same price. And rather than, you know, the whole idea of having him come back is if he's gonna go out and look for a vehicle and finally narrows it down to 1 or 2 that he wants to get, and the board says, okay, go get this one, we want him to have an F-150 truck instead of a Dodge Ram or something. But I'm seeing this to where it's the exact same vehicle, and if we're gonna authorize him not to exceed $50,000 to go out and get the vehicle, then I think the way the action is written here, and our policy, I think, backs it up, is that if we approve this tonight, the general manager should be able to just go out and negotiate the best deal, not to exceed, and purchase the vehicle. And shouldn't have to come back to the board again for another approval.
That's how this action item reads, yes.
That's the way the action item reads, and I just want to I would like to get a motion on the way the action item reads, that we're authorizing the general manager looking at these 4 bids right here, and to authorize him to go out and work the best deal he can, and to make the purchase, and be done with it.
If the maker of the motion changes their motion, then you can do it on the same motion. If not, you need a new motion to reflect what you said and move forward on that one
That was my
first.
question, is
Okay,
whether.
question, can we strike the one I had and just bring up the one now, just reword grid?
Yeah, you can do that, that's why I
Okay,
said.
Withdraw the
so I
motion.
withdraw the one, I withdraw the motion I had, and, initially I'll bring it back to the board, and I bring forth the motion that, the president had about voting on the GM going out and authorizing the GM to go out and purchase a vehicle not to exceed $50,000. And no pink stripes.
And I second that again, and that's exactly the way it's written.
That's the motion.
It's spot on.
Just for further clarification, the only reason the general manager would need to come back to the board is if he couldn't negotiate a deal under $50,000 and it ended up being more. Then he'd have to come back to the board and give another further authorization.
And Mr. GM, no spinners.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice President Webb, seconded by Director Glennon. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.